Captain Kyle Harrison stood in the observation deck of Apex Prime Station and watched as representatives from dozens of alien civilizations filled the grand hall below. The Galactic Defense Summit had drawn military leaders from across known space, each eager to display their technological superiority and secure better defense contracts. Kyle adjusted his dark blue uniform and checked the time. Admiral Susan Clark would present humanity's fleet capabilities in less than an hour, and Kyle felt his stomach tighten with anticipation. He had spent 20 years in Earth's Navy and commanded the USS Relentless for the past 5. Yet standing here among species that traveled between stars before humans discovered fire made him feel incredibly small. "Captain Harrison," a voice called from behind. Ambassador Jenna Rhodes approached with a diplomatic smile that did not quite reach her eyes. "The Admiral wants you on standby for technical questions during the presentation." Kyle nodded and followed her toward the main conference chamber. The hallway buzzed with conversations in dozens of languages, most translated automatically by the station systems. He caught fragments of discussions about quantum shielding advances and plasma weapon refinements. Technologies that humanity had only dreamed about were casual talking points here. The conference chamber was massive, easily 300 meters across, with a domed ceiling that displayed a real-time view of the stars outside. Tiered seating surrounded a central platform where presenters would stand. Kyle found his assigned seat in the human delegation section and sat beside Lieutenant Amy Chun, his tactical officer who had insisted on attending. "Nervous?" Amy whispered. "Should I be?" Kyle replied. Amy glanced around at the alien delegates and shrugged. "These people cross the galaxy in ships that bend space itself, while we still use chemical rockets for atmospheric launches." Before Kyle could respond, the lights dimmed and High Commander Sal Quinn of the Archon Collective stepped onto the central platform. The Archon was tall and crystalline, their body reflecting light in prismatic patterns. "Welcome to the 247th Galactic Defense Summit," Sal Quinn began, their voice resonating through translation devices. "We gather in challenging times as new threats emerge from unexplored regions." The commander gestured and holographic displays materialized above the platform showing fleet compositions and battle readiness reports over the next 3 hours. Kyle watched presentation after presentation. The Centauri displayed their quantum-shielded battle cruisers that could phase through solid matter. The Kelvin Confederacy showcased plasma cannons that could vaporize asteroids. The Thros Dominion revealed gravitational weapons that could crush enemy vessels without firing a single shot. Each demonstration drew applause and admiring comments. Finally, Admiral Clark was called to present. She walked to the platform with military precision, her gray hair pulled back, her posture perfect. "Thank you for the opportunity to share Earth's fleet capabilities," she began. The holographic display shifted to show humanity's flagship, the USS Relentless. The vessel was impressive by human standards, 300 meters long with angular armor plating and dozens of weapon emplacements. But compared to the sleek energy-based ships shown earlier, it looked brutish and primitive. "Our primary vessels utilize layered titanium ceramic composite armor," Clark continued. "Main armaments consist of electromagnetic railguns capable of accelerating projectiles to 0.3 light speed." A ripple of whispers spread through the chamber. Kyle felt heat rising in his cheeks. "We also employ missile batteries with fusion warheads, point defense cannons using conventional ballistics, and close-range engagement protocols," Counselor Vexler, the Centauri admiral who had presented earlier, stood from his seat. His species resembled bipedal reptiles with iridescent scales. "Forgive my interruption," Vexler said, though his tone carried no request for forgiveness. "But did you say electromagnetic railguns? Physical projectiles?" "That is correct," Clark replied evenly. And these missiles, they use combustion-based propulsion? Fusion drives for space travel, yes, with chemical boosters for atmospheric operation. The whispers grew louder. Someone in the back actually laughed. Vexthor's expression shifted into what Kyle recognized as amusement. Admiral Clark, with all due respect, my people abandoned kinetic weapons 8,000 years ago, Nisanthari said. Why would humanity bring such antiquated technology to a modern defense summit? Clark's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady, because these weapons are reliable, tested, and our people know how to use them effectively. Reliable? Vexthor repeated. Commander Salqueen, forgive me, but I must ask, why were humans even invited to this summit? They possess no energy shielding, no plasma weapons, no quantum drives. Their fleet is quite literally a museum collection. Laughter erupted from several delegations. Kyle's hands clenched into fists. Amy placed a warning hand on his arm. Admiral Clark stood motionless on the platform, absorbing the mockery with stoic silence. Ambassador Rhodes stood. Counselor Vexthor. Earth's military has defended our system against threats for over 2 centuries. Your system? Vexthor interrupted. Yes, I am certain your ballistic weapons work wonderfully against asteroids and local pirates. But this summit concerns galactic-scale threats. Perhaps humanity should focus on cargo transport and leave military operations to civilizations with actual modern capabilities. More laughter followed. Even Salqueen seemed amused, though they attempted to hide it. Very well, the Archon commander said. We thank Admiral Clark for her presentation. Fleet assignments will be distributed tomorrow morning. We adjourn until then. The delegates began filing out, many casting pitying or amused glances toward the human section. Kyle stood quickly and moved to intercept Clark as she stepped down from the platform. Admiral, not here, Captain, Clark said quietly, her face a mask of controlled fury. They walked in silence back to the human quarters, a modest section of the station reserved for their delegation. Once inside, Clark finally let her composure crack. 200 years of building Earth's defense force, she said, her voice shaking slightly. 200 years of training, of sacrifice, of pushing the boundaries of what our technology can achieve. And they laugh at us like we are children playing with toys. They are fools, Kyle said. No, Clark replied, sitting heavily in a chair. They are advanced civilizations with weapons we cannot match and defenses we cannot penetrate. They have every reason to consider us inferior. Jenna Rhodes entered the room carrying a datapad. Fleet assignments just came through, she said, her tone apologetic. Kyle took the pad and scanned the list. Humanity had been assigned to Patrol Route Theta 9, the outermost edge of civilized space where nothing ever happened. They were being sent as far from anything important as possible. At least they did not send us home entirely, Amy offered weakly. Kyle handed the pad back to Jenna and turned to Clark. What are your orders, Admiral? Clark straightened in her chair, the military discipline reasserting itself. We accept the assignment with grace, she said. We patrol our route, we do our duty. And we prove through our actions what they refuse to see in our technology. And what is that? Kyle asked. Clark met his eyes. That humanity does not need the most advanced weapons to be dangerous. We just need to be underestimated. 3 weeks had passed since the humiliation at Apex Prime. Kyle Harrison sat in the captain's chair aboard the USS, relentless as it cruised through the emptiness of Patrol Route Theta 9. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring sensors that detected nothing but cosmic radiation and the occasional asteroid. Anything interesting out there, Lieutenant? Kyle asked. Amy Chun looked up from her tactical console and shook her head. Same as yesterday and the day before, sir. Empty space as far as sensors can reach. Kyle suppressed a sigh. This was exactly what the Galactic Council wanted. Humanity tucked away, where they could not embarrass anyone with their outdated technology. "Captain," the communications officer called out suddenly, "I am picking up a distress signal." The entire bridge went quiet. "Source?" Kyle asked, sitting forward. "Outer Rim Colony. Designation Theta 47. Signal is weak and breaking up. Put it through." Static filled the bridge speakers. Then a terrified voice cut through. "Under attack, unknown vessels. They are not responding to hails. Shields are failing. Require immediate." The transmission ended abruptly. Kyle was on his feet. "How far?" 4 hours at maximum burn," Amy replied. "Already calculating jump coordinates. Set course and inform the fleet. All human vessels converge on Theta 47. As the Relentless changed course, more distress signals began flooding in. Not just from Theta 47, but from colonies across the Outer Rim, within minutes. The communication channels lit up with emergency broadcasts. "Captain, I am counting 17 colonies reporting attacks," the communications officer said, her voice strained. "All describing the same thing: massive fleets of unknown origin." Kyle pulled up the tactical display. Red markers appeared across the Outer Rim, spreading inward like a plague. "Get me Admiral Clark." The Admiral's face appeared on the main view screen moments later. She looked as concerned as Kyle felt. "You are seeing this too?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. We are en route to Theta 47 now." "Belay that," Clark ordered. "New priority target, Theta Station, is the largest mining colony in the sector with over 50,000 civilians. If this threat is moving inward, they will hit Theta Station within hours." "Understood." Adjusting course now. Clark leaned closer to her screen. "Kyle, I am forwarding you all the data we have on these attackers. It is not much. The Galactic Council is calling them the Swarm." The tactical display updated with new information. Kyle felt his blood run cold as he studied the images. The Swarm vessels were unlike anything he had seen before, organic in appearance, with surfaces that rippled and pulsed like living tissue. They moved in perfect coordination, hundreds of ships acting as a single entity. "The Zentari engaged them 2 hours ago," Clark continued. "Their quantum shields and plasma weapons were effective at first, but Kyle prompted. "The Swarm adapted within 20 minutes. Their ships began absorbing and deflecting the plasma. The Zentari fleet was forced to retreat." Kyle processed this information. An enemy that could adapt to energy weapons in real time was terrifying. What about the other species? The Archon Collective tried their gravitational weapons with the same result. Initial success followed by rapid adaptation. The Council is in emergency session now, trying to determine a response. "And us?" Kyle asked. Clark's expression hardened. "The Council has ordered all human vessels to fall back to core worlds. They believe we would be, quote, useless against such a threat." Kyle felt anger surge through him. "We are the only fleet in position to defend those colonies." "I know," Clark said, "which is why I'm choosing to interpret their orders as suggestions. Captain Harrison, you are authorized to engage the Swarm at Theta Station. By time for civilian evacuation, what about the Council? Let me worry about politics. You focus on keeping those people alive." The transmission ended. Kyle turned to his crew. They were all watching him with expressions mixing fear and determination. "You heard the Admiral," Kyle said. "We are going to buy time for an evacuation. This enemy can adapt to energy weapons, which means every advanced fleet in the galaxy is at a disadvantage. But we use kinetic weapons," Amy said slowly, realization dawning on her face. "Exactly," Kyle confirmed. "We might be the only ships in the galaxy this thing cannot adapt to because we are shooting bullets while everyone else is shooting lasers." The bridge officer managed a nervous smile. "So being outdated might actually save us?" "Let us hope so, Helm. Maximum speed to Theta Station." The USS Relentless accelerated. its fusion drives pushing the ship to its limits. Behind it, 3 more human vessels followed, destroyers USS Defender and USS Valiant, and the cruiser USS Guardian. It was not much of a fleet by galactic standards. 4 ships with conventional weapons against an enemy that had pushed back the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. But it was all those colonists had. 2 hours later, Theta Station appeared on the view screen. The massive mining facility hung in orbit around a resource-rich asteroid. Its docking ports designed to handle hundreds of cargo ships. Right now, those ports were chaos. Civilian vessels scrambled to undock and flee as the first swarm ships appeared at the edge of the system. "Contact in 30 minutes, Amy announced. "I count over 200 enemy vessels." Kyle felt his mouth go dry. 200 against 4. Status of the evacuation? Maybe half the colony has gotten off station. The rest are still trying to board ships. Then we give them more time. All ships. Defensive Formation Alpha. Weapons hot. The human fleet moved into position between Theta Station and the approaching swarm. Kyle watched the tactical display as the enemy drew closer. The swarm ships moved with unnatural grace, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescence. They were beautiful in a horrifying way. "They are not slowing down," Amy reported. "Contact in 5 minutes. All crews to battle stations," Kyle ordered, his voice steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. "Railguns charged, missile batteries armed. This is not going to be like the training simulations. This is real. Do your jobs and trust your training." The crew responded with a chorus of confirmations. Kyle gripped the armrests of his chair. 20 years in the Navy, 5 years commanding the Relentless. Countless training exercises and patrol missions, but this was his first real battle. "Enemy entering weapons range," Amy called out. The swarm ships opened fire. Streams of bioplasma shot across space, green and sickly glowing. The USS Defender took a hit on its port side. "Armor plating vaporizing. Return fire," Kyle ordered. The Relentless shuddered as its railguns discharged. Solid metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds. Crossing the distance in seconds, they struck the lead swarm vessel and punched straight through. The enemy ship split apart, its organic hull unable to withstand the kinetic impact. Direct hit. Amy shouted, "Target destroyed." Kyle felt a surge of hope. "All ships, concentrate fire. Do not let up." The human fleet opened up with everything they had. Railgun rounds and missiles tore into the swarm formation. Unlike the energy weapons of advanced civilizations, these simple kinetic projectiles could not be adapted to. They were just chunks of metal moving fast. Physics at its most basic, and the swarm had no answer. Enemy ships exploded one after another. The organic vessels tried to dodge, but their adaptation capabilities were useless against weapons that operated on pure momentum. "They are breaking formation," Amy reported with excitement. They were not expecting this. Commander Eric Stone's voice came over the comm from the USS Defender. "Kyle, whatever they did to counter the Xanthari plasma, it does not work on good old-fashioned bullets." Kyle allowed himself a small smile. "Keep firing. We have a lot more of them to get through." The battle raged on. Theta Station continued its evacuation behind the human fleet. And for the first time since the swarm appeared, someone was fighting back successfully. The Obsolete fleet was holding the line. The battle for Theta Station had been raging for 2 hours. Kyle Harrison watched his tactical display as another wave of swarm vessels entered the system. The human fleet had destroyed over 50 enemy ships, but more kept coming. "Ammunition status?" Kyle called out. "Railgun capacitors at 60%, Amy Chun reported. "Missile reserves down to 40%. Kyle did some quick calculations. At this rate, they had maybe 3 more hours of sustained combat. The evacuation of Theta Station was 70% complete. They needed more time. Captain, the USS Guardian is reporting damage to their port railgun array, the communications officer announced. They are down to half combat effectiveness. Kyle pulled up the formation display. The 4 human ships were holding a defensive perimeter around the station, but the swarm kept probing for weaknesses. Their organic vessels would dart in, test the defenses, then retreat. They were learning, not adapting to the weapons themselves, but studying human tactics. Amy, what are they doing? Kyle asked. His tactical officer had been studying the enemy movement patterns. They are trying to find gaps in our coverage, she replied. They figured out they cannot counter our weapons directly, so they are looking for angles where we cannot shoot them. Smart, Kyle muttered. Too smart, Amy added. Captain, I think these ships are not operating independently. They move too precisely. Like they are all controlled by one mind. Kyle considered this. A hive intelligence would explain the perfect coordination. If that is true, there must be a command ship somewhere. Scanning now, Amy said, her fingers flying over her console. There, 15,000 kilometers behind their front line, much larger than the others. Kyle studied the massive vessel on his screen. It was easily twice the size of the Relentless, with dozens of smaller swarm ships orbiting it like moons around the planet. That is our target, Kyle decided. Sir, we cannot reach it without leaving the station exposed, Amy protested. Kyle knew she was right. If they broke formation to attack the command ship, the swarm would swarm the evacuation ships. He was considering options when a new signal appeared on his display. Unknown vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Kyle tensed, expecting more enemies instead. A familiar reptilian face appeared on his view screen. Council of Vexthar, Captain Harrison, the Zentari Admiral said. We received word of your engagement. Kyle waited for the mockery. The condescension, it did not come. I am transmitting tactical data now, Vexthar continued. The swarm adapted to our weapons, but they cannot adapt to yours. We would like to coordinate our attack. Kyle felt surprise wash over him. The same alien who had laughed at humanity's obsolete technology was now asking for help. What do you propose? Kyle asked. Your kinetic weapons can destroy them. Our energy shields can still protect against their bioplasma. We combine our strengths. It made tactical sense. Agreed, Kyle said. We have identified what we believe is a command ship. If we destroy it, the swarm might lose coordination. Vexthar studied the data Kyle transmitted. 15,000 kilometers behind their line, heavily defended. We would need to break through their formation. I have a plan, Kyle said. But it will require precise timing. He quickly outlined his strategy. The Zentari fleet would create a corridor using their shields, absorbing enemy fire while human ships moved through once in range. The human vessels would target the command ship with everything they had. It is dangerous, Vexthar acknowledged, but so is losing this station. We are ready when you are. Kyle turned to his crew. All human ships, prepare for offensive maneuver. USS Defender and USS Valiant, you are with me. USS Guardian, maintain station defense. Commander Eric Stone's voice came through. Finally going on offense, about time. The Zentari fleet moved into position. 20 sleek vessels with shimmering quantum shields. They arranged themselves in a wedge formation. Zentari fleet is ready, Vexthar reported. Execute, Kyle ordered. The Zentari ships accelerated forward. Shields blazing, swarm vessels swarmed to intercept. Firing streams of bioplasma. The attack splashed against the alien shields. Absorbed and deflected, behind this protective wall. 3 human ships charged toward the enemy line. Concentrate all fire on targets directly ahead, Kyle commanded. The Relentless opened up with all railguns. Solid slugs tore through swarm vessels, blocking their path. Organic hulls exploded, creating a corridor through the enemy formation. Enemy command ship is targeting us, Amy warned. Massive energy buildup. Evasive maneuvers, Kyle ordered. The Relentless rolled hard to port, just as a beam of concentrated bioplasma shot past where they had been. The USS Defender was not as lucky. The beam clipped their starboard side, burning through armor. Defender has lost main engine power, the communications officer reported. Defender, fall back, Kyle ordered. Valiant, with me. 2 human ships now pressed forward while the wounded destroyer limped back toward Theta Station. The Xanthari shield wall was holding, but Kyle could see their energy readings dropping. They could not maintain this forever. Distance to target? Kyle asked. 8,000 kilometers, Amy replied. Entering effective missile range in 30 seconds. Kyle gripped his chair. This was it. Prepare full missile barrage. On my mark, the Relentless and Valiant closed the distance. Swarm vessels tried to intercept, but the Xanthari shields and human railguns kept them at bay. 6,000 kilometers. The enemy command ship was massive up close. Its organic hull pulsed with sickly light. Dozens of smaller vessels orbited it protectively. 4,000 kilometers. Fire! Kyle ordered. Both human ships unleashed their entire missile payload. Hundreds of fusion-tipped warheads streaked toward the command ship. The swarm defensive vessels tried to intercept. They destroyed many missiles, but could not stop them all. Explosions blossomed across the command ship's hull. The massive vessel shuddered. Bioplasma vented from ruptured sections. Target is damaged, but still functional, Amy reported. Kyle watched the tactical display. The command ship was wounded but not dead. And they were out of missiles. Railguns only now, Kyle said. Pour it on. The Relentless and Valiant opened fire with every railgun they had. Solid metal slugs hammered the command ship. Each impact punched deep into organic tissue. The vessel's hull began to crack. Fissures spread across its surface. Enemy ship losing structural integrity, Amy called out. Kyle watched as the massive command vessel slowly broke apart. Then it exploded. The blast was spectacular. Green and purple flames expanding outward. The smaller swarm ships in orbit were caught in the explosion. Dozens destroyed instantly. Command ship destroyed, Amy confirmed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire swarm fleet stopped moving. The organic vessels drifted, uncoordinated. Their movements have become erratic, Amy said with excitement. I think they lost central control. Kyle allowed himself to breathe. All ships. Target remaining swarm vessels. Do not let up. The human and Xanthari fleets tore into the now disorganized enemy. Without their hive intelligence coordinating them, the swarm ships were easy targets. Within 20 minutes, the battle was over. The surviving swarm vessels fled into deep space. Kyle sat back in his chair, exhausted. Status of Theta Station? Evacuation 95% complete. The communications officer reported. Remaining civilians are boarding the last transport now. Casualties? USS Defender took heavy damage, but crew is intact. USS Guardian reports minor damage. Xanthari fleet lost 2 ships. Kyle felt the weight of those losses. 2 alien crews had died helping defend a human colony. Open a channel to Counselor Vexter. The Xanthari admiral appeared on screen. His reptilian features looked tired. A costly victory, Vexter said. But a victory nonetheless. Thank you for your assistance, Kyle replied. Those colonists owe you their lives. Vexter was quiet for a moment. Captain Harrison, I owe you an apology at the summit. I mocked your fleet as obsolete. I was wrong. You were right about our technology being old, Kyle said. But I was wrong about what that meant, Vexter countered. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Your kinetic weapons saved thousands today. Perhaps we advanced species have forgotten important lessons. Kyle nodded. Perhaps we all have something to learn from each other, Vexter smiled. an expression that looked strange on his reptilian face. "I will convey this sentiment to the Council. I suspect they will be very interested in hearing about this battle." The battle at Theta Station had been over for 6 hours when Admiral Susan Clark arrived with reinforcements. Kyle Harrison stood on the bridge of the Relentless and watched as a dozen more human vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Among them was the carrier USS Valiant, its launch bays filled with fighter craft. "Admiral on approach," the communications officer announced. Kyle straightened his uniform and prepared to brief his superior officer on the engagement. Clark's face appeared on the view screen. She looked pleased. A rare expression for the normally stoic admiral. "Captain Harrison, the Galactic Council has been reviewing combat footage from your engagement," she said. "They are very impressed. We had help," Kyle replied. "Councilor Vexthor and the Zentari fleet were essential to the victory." "I saw the battle recordings," Clark acknowledged. "But it was human weapons that turned the tide. The Council is calling an emergency session, and they have specifically requested that you attend." Kyle felt surprise. 3 weeks ago they had laughed at him. Now they wanted his presence at their highest-level meetings. "When?" he asked. "Immediately. A fast courier ship is en route to transport you to Apex Prime. I will take command of the fleet here." Kyle nodded. Within an hour, he was aboard a sleek Archon vessel, traveling faster than human ships could manage. The journey that took days in the Relentless took only hours in the advanced alien craft. Apex Prime Station appeared ahead. Kyle felt his stomach tighten with the same nervousness he had experienced at the first summit. But this time felt different. He was not presenting outdated technology. He was arriving as someone who had proven that outdated technology could work. The station's docking bay was busy with military vessels from across the galaxy. Kyle recognized ships from dozens of civilizations, all gathered to discuss the swarm threat. Ambassador Jenna Rhodes met him at the airlock. "They have been asking for you constantly," she said, as they walked toward the conference chamber. "The Zentari have been showing combat footage to anyone who will watch. You are quite famous now." Kyle was not sure how he felt about that. Fame was not why he had joined Earth's Navy. They entered the conference chamber. It was packed with military leaders and government officials. High Commander Salqueen stood at the central platform. "Captain Harrison," the Archon leader announced, "thank you for joining us. We have been analyzing the battle at Theta Station and have questions." Kyle walked to the platform. Hundreds of alien eyes watched him. "What would you like to know?" Kyle asked. "Your kinetic weapons proved effective where our energy-based systems failed," Salqueen began. "We need to understand why the swarm cannot adapt to them." Kyle thought about how to explain it simply. "Your weapons use energy in various forms: plasma, gravitational fields, quantum disruption," he said. "The swarm's organic technology can absorb and redirect energy. They evolved to counter exactly the kind of weapons you use. But kinetic weapons?" Another delegate prompted. "Are just matter moving fast," Kyle continued. "There is no energy signature to adapt to, no frequency to counter. When a metal slug hits their hull at a significant fraction of light speed, physics takes over. Momentum and mass are not things you can evolve a defense against quickly." Councilor Vexthor stood. "Captain Harrison is being modest," the Zentari said. "His forces also demonstrated superior tactical coordination and combat discipline. While our crews rely heavily on automated systems, human crews train constantly for manual operation." Kyle nodded. "We cannot afford the most advanced automation, so our people learn to do things manually. It makes us slower sometimes, but also more flexible. Flexible enough to win," Vexthor added. High Commander Salqueen touched a control, and the holographic display changed. It showed a map of known space with red zones marking swarm activity. "The threat is spreading," Salqueen explained. We have lost contact with 17 colonies and 2 major shipyards. Our advanced fleets cannot counter them effectively. We need a new strategy, Dr. Beth Morgan. A human scientist Kyle recognized from Earth's research division stepped forward. I have been studying the swarm biology from recovered debris, she said. Their adaptation capability is built into their organic structure at a molecular level. When exposed to energy-based weapons, their cells literally evolve in real time to counter it. But they cannot evolve to stop kinetic weapons? Someone asked. Not without fundamentally changing their structure, Dr. Morgan replied. To stop a physical projectile requires dense armor or advanced shielding technology. Their adaptation ability makes them soft and energy absorbent, which is the opposite of what you need for kinetic defense. Kyle saw where this was going. You want human ships to take point in engagements, he said. Sal Queen nodded. We propose a joint defense force. Human vessels would engage the swarm directly, while our fleets provide support with shields and defensive systems. It made tactical sense. But Kyle knew what it would cost. Human ships will take the most casualties in that arrangement, he pointed out. Yes, Sal Queen admitted, which is why we are offering full access to our medical technology. Shield generators for your vessels and advanced propulsion systems. We cannot give you energy weapons, as that would defeat the purpose. But we can make your ships faster and more durable. Kyle looked around the chamber. These advanced civilizations were offering to share technology they had hoarded for centuries. All because humanity's outdated weapons were suddenly vital. I need to consult with Admiral Clark, Kyle said. Of course, Sal Queen replied. But we need an answer quickly. The swarm is not waiting. Kyle left the chamber and found a private communication booth. He contacted Clark and explained the council's proposal. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. They want to make us the tip of the spear, she finally said. Yes, ma'am. And in exchange, we get technology that would normally take us centuries to develop. That is correct. Clark considered the situation. What is your assessment, Captain? Kyle thought about the battle at Theta Station, about the colonists they had saved, about the Zenthari ships that had died protecting human civilians. The swarm is a threat to everyone, he said. If we refuse, more colonies will fall. More people will die. We have the ability to stop them. I think we have a responsibility to try, even if it costs human lives. We signed up to protect people, Kyle replied. Not just human people, all people, Clark smiled. That is what I was hoping you would say. Tell the council we accept. But on one condition. What is that? Human tactical doctrine becomes the standard for joint operations. If we are going to be the front line, everyone fights the way we fight, Kyle grinned. I think they will agree to that. He returned to the conference chamber and delivered Earth's acceptance. The council agreed to Clark's condition without hesitation. Over the next hour, they planned the first joint operation. The swarm was massing near a system called Epsilon Prime. Intelligence suggested they were preparing a major offensive. We hit them first, Kyle proposed. A combined fleet jumps in. Human ships engage directly, while alien vessels provide defensive support and target smaller threats. What about their command ships? Vexter asked. We will face the same problem as at Theta Station. Dr. Morgan spoke up. I have been working with your fighter pilots, she said to Kyle. If we can get them close enough, a concentrated nuclear strike might destroy a command ship. Nuclear weapons? An alien delegate asked with surprise. Another ancient human weapon, Kyle explained. Very effective, barbaric, someone muttered. But effective, Kyle repeated. The plan came together. A fleet of 40 ships would jump to Epsilon Prime. Human cruisers and destroyers would engage the swarm directly. Zenthari shields would protect the formation. Archon gravitational weapons would handle any swarm ships that got too close. and human fighters armed with nuclear weapons would target command vessels. It was ambitious, it was dangerous, but it was also the best chance they had. "We jump in 6 hours," Salqueen announced. "All ships, prepare for combat operations." Kyle returned to the Relentless. His crew had been watching the proceedings and knew what was coming. "We are going back into battle," Amy said. "Not a question." "Yes," Kyle confirmed. "But this time, we are not alone." He looked around the bridge. These people had followed him through one battle already. Now he was asking them to do it again. "I will not pretend this will be easy," Kyle said. "The swarm is dangerous, and we will be leading the attack. Some of us might not come home." The crew was silent. "But we have something they do not," Kyle continued. "We have each other. We have training. We have weapons they cannot counter. And we have allies who respect us. And we have 6 hours to prepare." Amy added with a slight smile. Kyle nodded. "Then let us make them count. All hands, prepare for combat operations." We jumped to Epsilon Prime at 0600 hours. The combined fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Epsilon Prime system. Kyle Harrison stood on the bridge of the USS Relentless and watched his tactical display populate with contacts. 40 Allied ships and over 300 swarm vessels. "Wow," Commander Eric Stone said over the com from the USS Defender, now repaired and ready for combat. "They certainly brought friends to the party." Kyle could not help but smile at his friend's dark humor. "All ships, report status," he ordered. One by one, the vessels checked in, 12 human ships armed with kinetic weapons, 20 Xanthari cruisers with quantum shields, 8 Archon vessels with gravitational weapons, and dozens of fighters from various species, all armed with nuclear warheads. "Captain, I am detecting multiple command ships," Amy Chun reported. 4 of them, positioned throughout their formation. Kyle studied the display. The swarm had learned from Theta Station. Instead of one central command ship, they had distributed their control. Destroying one would not break the entire fleet. "Adjust target priorities," Kyle ordered. "Fighter squadrons will need to hit all 4 command ships simultaneously. That spreads our forces thin," Amy warned. "I know, but it is the only way to break their coordination." He opened a channel to the fighter wing. "Pilot Nicole Brennan, are you ready?" Nicole's voice came through, steady and confident. "My squadron is armed and ready, Captain. Just get us close enough." Nicole was one of Earth's best fighter pilots. She had volunteered to lead the nuclear strike mission. "Remember," Kyle said, "you need to hit all 4 targets within a 60-second window. If even one command ship survives, it will coordinate a counterattack." "Understood. We will not let you down." Kyle switched to the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Captain Harrison. Today, we fight together as one fleet. Humans, Xanthari, Archon, and all others. The swarm believes it can overwhelm us through numbers and adaptation. They are wrong." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "They can adapt to energy, but not to kinetic force. They can overwhelm individuals, but not unified forces. And they certainly cannot counter determination and courage. Today we show them what happens when the galaxy stands together. For the colonies," Councilor Vexter added over the channel. "For the fallen," High Commander Salqueen echoed. "For everyone who cannot fight," Admiral Clark finished. "All ships, engage." Kyle ordered. The combined fleet accelerated toward the swarm. The enemy responded immediately. 300 organic vessels surged forward, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescence. Streams of bioplasma shot across space. The Xanthari shield wall activated, shimmering barriers of quantum energy absorbing the attacks. Behind this protection, human ships opened fire. Railgun rounds tore through swarm vessels. Solid metal slugs punched through organic hulls that had evolved to counter energy weapons. The ancient physics of mass and momentum proved unstoppable. Enemy formation breaking apart, Amy reported. They are trying to flank us. Arkham vessels? Target the flanking groups, Kyle ordered. The crystalline Archon ships activated their gravitational weapons. Invisible forces grabbed swarm vessels and crushed them like tin cans. The combined fleet moved deeper into enemy territory. Human ships took point, their kinetic weapons clearing a path. Centauri shields protected them from return fire. Archon gravity weapons handled threats from the sides. It was brutal, coordinated warfare, and it was working. "We are approaching fighter launch position," Amy announced. Kyle opened the channel to Nicole. "You are clear to launch." "Roger that. All fighters follow me in." On the tactical display, Kyle watched as dozens of small craft detached from their carriers. Human fighters mixed with alien equivalents, all armed with fusion warheads. They streaked toward the 4 swarm command ships. "Enemy fighters launching," Amy warned. Smaller swarm vessels poured from the command ships to intercept. "All point defense batteries, cover those fighters," Kyle ordered. The fleet's defensive weapons came alive. Automated cannons tracked and destroyed incoming threats, but there were too many. Kyle watched helplessly as several fighter icons disappeared from his display. "Fighter groups taking casualties," the communications officer reported. "Nicole status?" Kyle called. "We are pushing through," she replied. Her voice strained. "Lost 3 birds, but we are still on target." The 4 fighter groups split up, each heading for a different command ship. Swarm defenders swarmed them, but the human pilots were skilled. They dodged and weaved through enemy fire, their smaller size and manual control giving them an edge. "Group 1 approaching target," Nicole announced. "Group 2 in position," another pilot confirmed. "Group 3 locked on. Group 4 ready. All groups." "On my mark," Nicole said. 3, 2, 1, mark." Kyle held his breath on the tactical display. 4 bright flashes appeared simultaneously. Nuclear fire consumed the swarm command ships. The explosions were massive, each one taking out dozens of nearby vessels. "All targets destroyed," Amy confirmed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire swarm fleet stopped moving. The organic vessels drifted without coordination. "Their command structure is broken," Amy said with excitement. "All ships, advance and destroy," Kyle ordered. The combined fleet tore into the now disorganized enemy. Without their hive intelligence, the swarm ships were helpless. They tried to fight but had no coordination. Within an hour, the battle was over. The surviving swarm vessels fled into deep space. Kyle sat back in his chair, exhausted. "Damage report?" "USS Relentless took moderate damage to port armor," Amy replied. "Several railgun batteries offline, but we are operational." "Fleet-wide casualties?" The communications officer's voice was somber. 5 fighters lost, 2 Centauri cruisers heavily damaged. 1 Archon vessel destroyed. Human ships USS Guardian and USS Defender have significant damage, but are intact. Kyle felt the weight of those losses. Every ship represented lives, people who had fought and died to stop the swarm. "Open a channel to all surviving ships," he said. When the channel was ready, Kyle spoke. "Today we proved something important. We proved that working together makes us stronger. The swarm was a threat to all of us, but none of us could stop them alone. Humans had the weapons but needed protection. The Centauri had shields but needed firepower. The Archons had support capabilities but needed frontline forces. Together, we were unstoppable." He paused. "We lost good people today. 5 pilots who will never go home. Crews from Centauri and Archon vessels who died defending colonies they had never seen. They deserve to be remembered, not as humans or Centauri or Archons, but as defenders of the galaxy." "Agreed," Counselor Vexter said. We should establish a memorial at Apex Prime, a monument to unity, Salqueen added. And to those who proved that different does not mean lesser, Admiral Clark finished. The fleet began the journey back to Apex Prime. Damaged ships were towed by their healthier counterparts. It took 3 days to reach the station when they arrived. Kyle was surprised to find crowds gathered at the observation decks. People from dozens of species had come to watch the fleet return. They cheered as each ship docked. Human vessels received the same respect as the most advanced alien craft. Kyle disembarked with his crew. Reporters from various galactic news networks crowded around. Captain Harrison, one asked, is it true that human weapons were key to defeating the swarm? Human weapons helped, Kyle replied. But it was cooperation that won the battle. We all brought something valuable to the fight. Will Earth continue to use kinetic weapons? Another reporter asked. We will, Admiral Clark answered, stepping forward. But we will also incorporate technology offered by our allies. The goal is not to abandon what works, but to combine the best of all our capabilities. Over the following weeks, changes swept through the Galactic Council. A new defense doctrine was established, combining human tactical training with advanced alien technology. Human instructors began teaching manual combat operations to species that had relied on automation for centuries. In exchange, human ships received shield generators, improved propulsion systems, and advanced sensors. Kyle was promoted to Rear Admiral and given command of a joint task force. 12 ships from 6 different species, all training to fight using combined tactics. Nicole Brennan became an instructor at the newly established Tactical Combat Academy, teaching alien pilots the aggressive flying style that had served human fighters so well. Dr. Beth Morgan led a research team studying ways to counter future adaptive threats. A month after the battle at Epsilon Prime, Kyle stood on the bridge of the Relentless. His ship had been repaired and upgraded. Centauri shield generators now protected its hull. Archon sensors extended its detection range, but its railguns and missile batteries remained. Ancient weapons that had saved the galaxy, Admiral Harrison, Amy Chun said. She had been promoted to commander and remained his tactical officer. We are receiving a priority message from the Council. Kyle pulled up the transmission. High Commander Salqueen appeared on screen. Admiral Harrison. We have detected swarm activity in the Outer Rim. They are regrouping. We need your task force to investigate. Kyle felt a familiar mix of anticipation and duty. Understood. We will depart immediately. He turned to his crew. They were ready. No longer the mocked representatives of obsolete technology, but respected defenders of the galaxy. All hands. Prepare for departure, Kyle ordered. Set course for the Outer Rim. As the Relentless undocked from Apex Prime,